This is Abby Johnson with Sugar Spun Marketing, and joining us right now is Todd Malicoat, the SEO faculty chair at Market Motive. How are you this afternoon?
Real good.
Good.
Doing well.
Good. Well, I obviously want to talk to you about SEO, and one of the angles I want to take with you is the fact that, as we all know, the SEO environment has changed dramatically over the past year even, mainly because of Google. And a lot of sites, as a result, have faced some big penalties. So first of all, let's talk about what Google has done, and then we'll get into a little bit of the penalties and how sites can recover.
Yeah, so I guess about 2012 is when the madness hit.
Yeah. Panda and Penguin.
2011, 2012, which was actually 5 years after they warned us. So Matt Cutt's original post on text links and PageRank and don't do this was actually over 10, just past his 10th birthday. I was
Seriously?
looking it up for the presentation. Yeah, so they gave us ample warning and nobody listened. And so I was in a penalty resolution session yesterday, and I asked everybody, how many people in this room, and there was probably 200 people in the room. I said, how many people have suffered a penalty? And 90% of that, now this is the audience here that incurred the wrath of the Google, but to see that many people, and then I said, how many people have recovered, and about half raised their hand. And then I said, how many people are still waiting to recover, and another half raised their hand. And so the fact that many people just in that room had suffered these penalties told me, one, we were doing something wrong as an industry, and two, we're kind of correcting that. And I think that's what we're seeing is just a different, more conservative approach in some regards, and a shift from the idea of just getting links and link development to content marketing. So to me, a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things are still the same. What the techniques and approaches that we took still apply, but there's some things that were used and abused and no longer serve their purpose, and incurred that wrath of Google and made people suffer those penalties because they warned us. They said, here's the guidelines, if you don't abide by them, this is going to happen, and that's exactly what happened to more than a few. I was even on a site clinic today, and of the 5 sites, 3 of them had suffered a penalty at one point in their career that we could see with SEMrush, and saw the organic traffic just drop and then come back as they improved the problem.
So let's talk about the sites that have been penalized. So just because a site has been penalized, though, do you necessarily think that it's bad?
Well, like I said, I think it's become commonplace almost. So there's a difference between a penalty, a filter, and a banning. Banning was what we said way back in the day when someone just had obliterated their site, churn and burn, did all kinds of nasty stuff. That's a banning, and they were banned for good. A filter is something that's kind of algorithmic and is not a manual action from Google. A penalty can be either algorithmic or manual, where they tell you, a human being tells you, hey, you did this wrong, you have suspect links, this type of thing. Or it can be manual, like a Panda type of penalty, it can be algorithmic, like a Panda type of penalty, where the content quality just isn't as good as it needs to be, so that page suffers in the search results and drops down the listings. So that's kind of somewhere between a filter and a penalty, depending on the scale of how many pages it hits on the website.
So let's first of all, a site, if something that they realize something is wrong, they need to identify what type of problem it is first of all. So then what can they do to recover?
Yeah, so there's 2 major types of penalties, being Panda or Penguin, or content-based or link-based.
Right.
Those are kind of the buckets. There's lots of offshoot aspects to each and subtleties to each, but I think you have to group them into those 2 buckets to start with. So you say, is there a problem with our content, or is there a problem with our offsite optimization, our link profile, that sort of thing? So with the content, I really like the approach of a tool called Deep Crawl. And Deep Crawl combined with Google Analytics really helps to identify pages that aren't performing, so that those can be removed, consolidated, etc. for a Panda type of penalty. For a Penguin type of penalty, for something link-based, a partial match penalty, anything that's related to a backlink profile, those types of penalties are really like link research tools, and the guys right around the corner here, Pitchbox. So the combination of those 2 tools, you can do some outreach to say, take these links, you can identify the bad links, you can say, take these links down, and then you can submit a disavow request to Google, and then a re-inclusion request if you need to do that after the fact. So that's kind of the approach on a more manual type of penalty, like a partial match. With Penguin as a whole, which is more algorithmic, it's the same type of approach, but you don't do the re-inclusion request. So it gets to be a little bit of complicated in terms of the process, but there is a flow chart that most of the SEO types have established to say this is how to get back into good graces, because most of the time the person doing the recovery is not the one who messed up the site in the first place. They're looking at the site and saying, here's the problems from the legacy marketers before me, or the legacy in-house team, or what have you. So they're just fixing those problems, and they're fairly easy to identify a lot of times. They're not always easy to fix because people that had a lot of content that was low quality, the only fix to that is to create better quality content or to consolidate it. So you end up, that's not traffic that you're just going to get back overnight from a recovery, but it will help the site as a whole to fix those problems.
You mentioned earlier about basically the industry completely messing up. So what do you want to say to the industry? Is this sort of, or should this be a wake-up call to, hey, let's stay, if there's anybody that tries to keep up with Google, it's this type of industry. So what needs to happen now?
There was a lot of things that were done wrong, and I think as the nature of what we do, being competitive marketers or optimizers, we were just always trying to push that envelope. So I don't think you can really fault, a shark for being a shark. You can't tell a shark not to eat fish. And you can't tell a competitive marketer not to push the edge with their techniques. And that's really what happened, but it got embraced so long, and Google kind of let it go. They let us, they gave us the rope for our own, hanging kind of thing. They gave us enough rope to hang ourselves, and a lot of people did. I was lucky personally. Those kind of tests I always did on affiliate sites of my own or what have you. So the sites that did get penalized, I just got to walk away from. I knew it was coming eventually. I can honestly say I didn't have a single client site get hit because I think the people that were paying attention knew that was coming. The people that were new were just still listening to the old techniques, still using the old tools, still using paid link networks, still using blog, guest blog posting that was all public and no quality standards, that type of thing. And those were all the things that Google was after, and they eventually nabbed most of it. They've done a pretty good job in identifying those bad link neighborhoods, people that were trying to inflate PageRank, people that were just trying to manipulate their search rankings with this shady link development. So I think as a whole, I wouldn't say a warning, but just not to fall into the same traps, not to do the same things, especially if you've recovered from a penalty before. You don't want to get back into those same habits. You still need to do link development, content marketing, whatever you want to call it. But I think there's a pervasive kind of mentality in this arena of content marketing. And it has supplanted the idea of just doing link development, just begging for links, just asking. That doesn't work. Nobody's going to be responsive to that. That's worthwhile. That has a quality site. They want something that helps them. They want something that they can pitch. So we're seeing a shift to more public relations, more media-oriented. And I think we had our window to be the little grassroots community, but we've all grown up quite a bit and realized that that's, if we're going to play in Google's world, they make the rules, and we have to abide by that.
So as all these changes have happened, obviously search has gotten better for the consumer, but it's also gotten much, much more competitive for marketers. So going forward, marketers just need to brace themselves for a competitive ride?
Yeah, I think so. It's the barrier to entry has definitely been, the bar has been raised. I've heard multiple people say that the best affiliates and freelancers. I've been lucky enough to be a freelance, work from home, independent consultant, and affiliate marketer for a decade now. And 5 or 6 of those, I did a lot of affiliate work and built my own sites. But there's a cost to that, and if you can't get to that initial top 3, top 5, build some search traffic, you don't see the benefit in building a website. And so the barrier to get into that top 5 for a variety of valuable terms is so high that an independent just isn't going to be able to take enough risk. If I was starting a startup company and using investor money and had people founding it, there's a level of risk that they're willing to tolerate. And when it's most of your livelihood as an individual, that's just too much to rely on. So when those sites did get penalized, a lot of the best affiliates just kind of walked away, and many have gone back into consulting and working for agencies and that type of thing. And So I think you have to be prepared to have a budget. You have to be prepared for just how competitive a search result is and be able to gauge that and set and manage your client or business partner relationships and expectations based on the competitive nature of the search results. Organic results are being pushed down the page by vertical creep, by increased competition. Everybody realizes that ranking for online education and car insurance and a lot of these industries that we've all been working in for many years is extremely valuable. So someone that's successful in one area then scales to several other areas. So the competitive playing field is very significant and high. So.
All right, well, that's a lot of information to take in. Todd, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the interview. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. This is Abby Johnson with Sugar Spud Marketing.